Good afternoon, good morning.
Hi. Hello, everyone.
Hello, hi, Nkosi.
How are you? I hope audible enough.
You said?
I hope my sound is okay. I missed the sound checking session.
Yes, your sound is okay. Will you be turning on your video too?
Unfortunately, I can't turn on my video right now. I
Okay.
hope, yeah.
Yeah, that's all right, but we can hear you clearly over here, so that's fine. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, depending on where you are joining us from. We will give it a few minutes before we start, about 2 minutes to let other people join in. We'll start by 2:05. So please bear with us. Thank you for joining in. Live now, so we are going to start and just have others join us while we are on. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone, depending on where you're joining us from. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Gen Z Takes on Climate and Mental Health Post-Film Screening. We'll be screening Climate Mental Health Network short documentary titled Gen Z's Mental Health Climate Stories. The film explores the mental health impacts of climate crisis on young adults worldwide. My name is Ayomide Ulude, and I am the project manager for the Eco-Anxiety in Africa project. And I would also like to meet you. So I'm going to drop some questions in the chat, an icebreaker where you can all introduce ourselves, where you're calling from, and we also have a fun question where you represent your feelings today as a weather condition. So if I am to answer that question, I would say my name is Ayomide Olude, like I said. I'm calling in from Lagos, Nigeria, and my feelings today as a weather condition is sunny. I am happy because of this webinar. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be doing this. And then it's also sunny. We had a storm on Monday in Lagos here, and yesterday was pretty gloomy. The sun didn't come out, but today it's all sunny and shiny. So yeah, it's also impacting my mood. So I would like you to also introduce yourself in the chat box, your name, where you're calling from, and your feeling today as a weather condition. I'm not seeing any answers yet. Is that a glitch for me? Oh, okay. Leko says he's calling from Nigeria and he's also feeling sunny. Yay. Trina is calling from Florida, USA, and she says it's a beautiful summer weather here. Thank you, Trina. Jennifer Uchendu, she's in London and she's feeling chilly. Oh, so sorry to hear that, Jennifer. I wish I could export some sunshine to you, but sadly not. Claire is calling from Malta, and she's feeling cloudy and humid, but she didn't sleep much. Oh, so sorry to hear that, Claire. I hope you have a great sleep tonight, if you can. Camila is calling from Italy, and she says sunny with refreshing breeze. I love that. I love that. Sheyi is calling from Lagos, and she says she's feeling rainy because rain brings refreshing. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Adebayo is calling from Edo State in Nigeria, and he says it's quite sunny with hot weather. And Nkosi is calling from Zimbabwe. Is also thrilled to be part of this. Yes, we're excited to have you. Nkosi is our speaker and is going to be introducing himself later on this call. We can't wait to meet you. And he says the weather is so good, sunny with a cool breeze. Thank you all. You can keep dropping your comments in the chat. Would read it as the webinar goes by. So like I said earlier, we are filming a climate mental health documentary that is talking about, the impact of the climate crisis to people's mental health, especially for young adults. So for young adults' mental health, and that ties to our work here at TEAP. TEAP stands for the Eco-Anxiety in Africa project, and TEAP is a project founded that was founded in 2022. Yeah, and it was founded to address the gap on climate change and mental health in Africa. Our founder, the founder of Positive Vibes, had a sort of mental anxiety due to our work, working in climate space and working on sustainability in Nigeria. And, that led us to starting the Eco-Anxiety in Africa project, to address this and to also validate these feelings for Africans. When we hear eco-anxiety or environmental related emotions, most time it's always, Eurocentric, and it doesn't bring it down to Africa. Yeah. So our aim and our goal at TEAP is to bring down these feelings and to understand these feelings from an African perspective, and more so from a youth perspective, because young people would be experiencing the climate crisis for a longer period of our life. So we stand in that gap to gather knowledge, and we do this through 4 major activities. We do this through research, we do this through space making, like this webinar we are having right now. We also run monthly webinars, to bring people together to talk about their emotions and their feelings on the environment and how we can, breed action. And that takes us to our third activity, which is community action. It's not just about talking about climate change and its impact, we also need to take action for ourselves and for our community. And our fourth major activity is climate-aware psychotherapy. This is a new field where we don't have much people, especially mental health professionals or experts, talking about the impact of climate change on our mental health. So we also try to do that as part of our goals and objectives. I would go ahead to give a few housekeeping tips before our speakers introduce themselves. Today's webinar is being recorded, so we'll share the link with you after the event is complete. We invite you to share with your friends. You can share the recording with your friends if they are not able to make it, your colleagues and your network. Today's webinar is also going to be very interactive. So after the film screening, you can drop your questions in the chat. We'll take it up, and you can also raise your hand to share your comments on the film and also ask our speakers questions. So we just want it to be very interactive. We want to hear thoughts from young people all over the world about the film, and also about their own perspective about the film and their realities. So I'm going to introduce our first speaker for today, Shilot Masiti. And our second speaker for today is Nkosi Sumbanda. So I will just give the mic to them so they can introduce themselves. Shilot, you can go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Shilot Masiti and I'm from South Africa. I'm also the founder of She for Earth, an organization that's actually working on educating young children and partnering with local leaders to ensure adaptation, resilience, and also mental health connection. Yeah, that's me.
Okay, thank you, Shilot. We are so happy to have you here. Fun fact, Shilot is also on the film that will be screening, so you are going to see our opinion, or hear our opinion rather, before any other person. Nkosi, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be a part of this engagement. My name is Nkosi. I'm from Zimbabwe. I'm a climate change advocate. I'm a researcher. I'm also a policy analyst. My organization, Green Shango, has done quite a lot in terms of addressing the intersection between climate change and health and mental health and health in general, having seen some of the impacts that harsh weather conditions that come as a result of climate change have on people's health in general. I was part of the team that was offering mental health support to communities that were affected by one of the deadliest cyclones that affected our country in 2019, Cyclone Idai, that left thousands and thousands homeless. So yeah, that's me. And in terms of research, I've done quite extensive research in various climate change related fields. And I'm part of the 10 researchers that have been selected to attend the Global Policy Seminar that will be held in Bonn this year, organized by the United Nations Research Institute for Social Development. I'm so happy to be with you, and I hope I will learn a lot from you guys and also share what I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are so excited to have you here. I can't wait for us to start this film and then dig into our interactive section. So yes. Shay, please, can you help with the film? Okay, great.
So last year, the UN described the current climate crisis as a code red for humanity. I'm really concerned about
the future of the children being born today, essentially. And on a selfish level, I would like to have children, but with what I see at the moment, I'm not super sure it's a great idea.
I've always wanted to be a mom, and I feel like my desire or want to be a mother is being slowly ripped away from me the older I get, so that's really upsetting.
I can't morally justify raising a child in a planet that's literally on fire.
My generation will not get to grow old or enjoy the different stages and experiences that life has to offer.
Things that are predictable and have been predictable for a very long time are being ignored. So just not having a future in general is a pretty scary idea to grasp at 17.
Is there going to be a natural disaster that devastates my home? Are we going to have food shortages? Will I get left behind? Will my family get left behind?
My biggest fear related to climate change is that we are actually on track to lose it all.
I feel like I constantly see on the news about unprecedented fires and floods and hurricanes, and I think about how people aren't going to be affected by these things equally.
I live in Austin, Texas, so right now we're seeing triple digits, and it keeps getting hotter in Texas from the last 2 years I've lived here. It's becoming more unbearable for folks to be living in this part of the region and seeing how that's going to affect us in the future and what we can do now to stop that.
Some people think of Iraq as just a desert, but it's much more than that. We have a beautiful nature and scenery distinctive to each region within the country. It would be devastating to see all that just get ruined with climate change.
Some of these experiences seem like they are far from us, but seeing people struggling to get water, as a person who has lived with water scarcity or water shortages for quite a long time, it's frustrating.
In BC, we have seen the impacts of climate change firsthand, from forest fires and wildfire smoke everywhere to extreme cold and extreme heat that is so uncharacteristic. So we need to be sure that when we're talking about climate change, we're not talking about concerns for the future and solely anxieties for the future. People have legitimate fears, concerns, anxieties today.
My biggest fear in the future as it relates to climate change surrounds the lack of prioritization for the needs of disproportionately impacted communities of color and low-income communities.
I think my biggest fear would be people will continue fighting against each other and finding things to fear instead of focusing how we can work together and create solutions and think positively and help each other.
I have a few things that cause me fear when it comes to the climate change. First, in governments actually listening to their citizens to take substantial climate action, but also having them help other countries who deserve climate reparations and are disproportionately affected by the climate crisis right now.
I often feel like every single thing that I do has to somehow relate to solving this issue, and it's kind of taken over my life.
It's sort of like picking at me, almost like taunting me a little bit. If you don't do this, then the world's gonna end or something like that.
And so there was this one moment, I was on an expedition with 200 people from around the world. One moment when all 200 people went silent at an ice fjord, and we could literally hear icebergs melting. So think of that for a second. Millions of drops of the purest water on the planet falling into the freshest body of water that exists. But what I used in that moment was the connection with community.
What revives me emotionally is seeing others act as a community, advocating for action.
The thing that helps me to feel more resilient is by kind of leaning into engaging this area.
All of us are connected. We don't need to take more for ourselves than anyone else. We have to change society and we have to do something different.
I find that I am most fulfilled when I am serving others and advocating for communities who have not been granted resources and a visible platform to discuss their ideas.
Having those communities, those networks of support has been the ultimate form of resilience building. emotionally and mentally for me, and being able to also take what I've learned in my experiences and share them with other people.
That's really what being human is all about, and we're all going through this together. Climate change is happening to everyone, so being able to talk to others about it, really, that's what I think we all need right now.
People in communities already know what the problems are and what solutions they need. So kind of like, giving people the confidence and power to solve their own problems. I think that's what, also fosters emotional resilience for people and communities. And I think that's what I would really need at the moment, honestly. Yeah, that's what I would need.
Creating hope for myself and really involving myself in the climate movement in a way that's celebrating my heritage and the plethora of sustainability practices that are in a lot of our ancestral knowledge. I think that's something that I kind of took in terms of the way I wanted to affect the sustainability space. And this really gave me a sense of belonging and a sense of purpose when it came to the climate movement.
Taking action is our only option that we have to save this planet. And I think that the younger generation, including myself, can take the lead on this relevant initiative. We can speak up and we can contribute much more than we can imagine.
Really, what I need now is not a quick fix. I need my government to recognize my rights, and I need my government to recognize the rights of the people I love and the people I've never met.
Seeing how we can come together to provide a better future for one another through that community, through that, groups and events that we can do to bring action in not just a local level here in Austin, but on a more global scale as well.
We need to be able to imagine new futures. We need to be able to imagine futures and reimagine ways that we can exist and be in this world beyond the American dream, beyond the confines that already exist.
It actually feels like I am being a part of saving the planet, and that really makes a person happy, and that's what makes me happy.
Thank you so much, Sheyi, for handling that. The movie just impacted me. I've seen it before, but watching it again, just impacted me differently. And I will give it to my co-host today, Oblekwa, to start the discussion with our speakers on their perceptions about the film and open it up to the audience. So, Lekwa.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ayamide, and very nice to be here, and also a very big welcome to Charlotte and Nkosi. So the movie was very, very, touching, and I felt like these people actually relate our emotions, and these are what is actually very needed. Trying to always validate these feelings that we feel regarding the climate change and regarding our mental health also. Exactly, just like Jennifer said, so many important concepts touched on in the video, and it's very, very true. So I just want to ask you, Charlotte, how do you think, or I should put it this way, what are some coping mechanisms that young adults have used to manage their mental health in the face of climate change? Because I understand during the video, during the interview, you said you were kind of frustrated. So maybe you can talk about how you're managing that, and also how you experience how you've seen people manage their feelings regarding climate change.
Well, that's an important question, and thank you for that, Luca. Personally, how I cope with that is like acting, more like trying to connect with other people who are actually on the same spectrum, and also trying to branch out to people who seem farther apart or far from, these topics of, climate change, conservation and everything, because when you go out and you start a conversation about climate change, and then you realize that some people, the reality that they're living in is actually a little bit
I think we lost thing.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well.
Okay, she's back.
Yeah, we couldn't hear you for a bit, Sheila. Yeah.
Oh, I was saying that it's more like, when you're personally, I've actually just act on, things, trying to connect with people on, different aspects of, the climate crisis, and also branching out to like different people, like people who seem like far from, the spectrum or arena of climate change. Because like when you go out in Africa, like young people are most affected by unemployment, and that's number one leading, factor around depression. So it's more like, when you talk about climate change, there's people you feel like they don't care. It's not like they don't care. They care. They just like, how do I care about climate change if I don't even have an income to support myself? Like, that's depressing. It's more like when you care about climate change, it's more like, you're just adding more into that depression. So it's kind of like, I see other young people like, starting businesses to counter that, and communities trying to also innovate their own solutions, like how my village actually started like a water model, like a water distribution system, which is like pretty incredible. And like, instead of like complaining and always like, doing petitions and everything, not that things like petitions are not working. It's just like sometimes action, direct action is like, matters a lot more than, trying to get like petitions, which is like, a really long process and does not really bring out like, necessary results or the needed results. So I've seen like, I see people every day trying to act on these issues instead of like just talking about them, because talking is much more frustrating.
And it's very because, one thing that I think is also very profound that you said was innovation that the village actually incorporated, and seeing those things come to life. It's beautiful to actually just see, because just that what I learned, and it kind of brings hope to people, and it's just something that is worth looking towards, not just focusing on the negative aspects of climate change and how it's affecting your life. The innovation, like you said, is also very, very good, and it just shows the beautiful side of the community as well when trying to just combat climate crisis. So my next question, maybe if you also like to answer this question succinctly, but I also just like to ask you, as a researcher and as someone who's a policy analyst, how would you ensure, or how can we ensure young adults' mental health needs are incorporated into climate policy and actions?
Hi, Hope. I hope you are fine. Unfortunately, I can't switch on my camera. My network is not really stable, so the moment I switch on my camera, you'll keep on losing me. So yeah, I apologize about that. That's quite an important question, Hope. I think before we address that, I think we should understand where we are in terms of incorporation or integration of mental health issues or health in general into climate policies and climate action. I feel like there's a lot to be done. There's a lot that needs to be done. I feel like there's not much that has been done, not just in Africa, but at global stage. If you'll notice, our COP28 agenda does not have health issues as one of our negotiation points. The only thing that we could get is just a theme day on 3 December. And we've been thinking, I'm part of the Yungo Health Board, and we've been pushing for an increased inclusion of health issues, more particularly mental health issues in global policy negotiations. That's what we've been pushing for. That's what we've been advocating for in collaboration with other organizations like Global Climate and Health Alliance. So I feel like there's a lot that needs to be done, but let me quickly maybe try and address your question in particular. I feel like we need to have raised awareness and education. I feel like we need to make people aware that there is a strong intersection between climate change and mental health. You know, there are a lot of psychological or mental health issues that arise from climate change induced natural disasters or climate change induced extreme and harsh weather conditions. And I feel like we need to develop a supportive infrastructure that allows youth voices to thrive, that allows youth opinions to thrive in all policy negotiations, policy formulations, be it national level, or transnational level, or global level. And I think we need to have to foster an increased youth engagement and participation. I think young people need to be engaged, and youth representation in climate policy discussions and advisory bodies need to be increased as well to ensure that mental health issues that affect young adults are incorporated and are embedded in all decision making processes. And I feel like we also need to prioritize resilience and coping strategies. And above everything else, I think we need to develop evidence-based policies. There's no much research data that is available as far as mental health impacts of climate change on young people are concerned. So yeah, I feel like those are some of the steps that we can take to ensure that young people are included in policy negotiations, and above all, their voices and that their opinions about mental health issues are taken into account. Because young people are the ones who bear the brunt of climate change impact, especially when it comes to psychological and mental health issues. We are the ones with less adaptation mechanisms. We lack resources to adapt. Most of the young people are unemployed. If you look at unemployment data from all countries, young people are the most affected by unemployment. It means that young people do not have coping mechanisms, they do not have the resources. So apart from just climate change issues, young people have also already have underlying psychological and mental health issues that arise from things like drug abuse, mental unemployment, economic issues, psychosocial issues that need to be addressed already. And then when climate change comes into play, I think it adds onto that. So young people are the most affected, and young people are the ones who should be at the table advocating for the policies that reflect their ideas, that reflect their opinions. So yeah, basically, I think in short, to answer your question, hope that's what I have. Hope I did do justice to your question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I've been able to just highlight 4 things that Nkosi talked about in trying to incorporate mental health needs in climate policy and climate plan, which is firstly, we need to conduct more researches. And in the case of TEAP, of the Eco Anxiety Africa Project, we are called at this because we understand that excuse me, the narratives behind climate change in Africa is skewed. And so TEAP, of course, is trying to just close that gap. And what I realize is that, when we have, research informed policies, it's faster in trying to meet these needs of trying to incorporate mental health needs in climate policy, because like I said, the research is also very, very important. And secondly, what Nikos talked about is also trying to increase awareness around this and also educate people, because we need to work our way into the offices and get what we want, but we also need to also put young people in mind, and we need to go to their schools and talk about climate change and things like that. And also, what's one thing that he also said that also struck was we need to sort of increase the awareness around climate change and mental health, not just talking about climate change from a disastrous point of view, but also trying to incorporate how people feel when they experience climate change and knowing how to communicate these things to people. So guys, in the chat, I already said that we can drop our opinions and thoughts. So if you have that, you can also just drop that. But if you want to speak your mind, you can just raise your hand. You can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lekwa. I just wanted to touch on a few points from the film. Like I said earlier, watching that film triggered my emotions, relating to the environment. I don't want to use a negative word for it because we try to be positive and not shroud everything in negativity. But if I am being honest with myself, I mostly see it as a negative occurrence. Like Nkosi has said, like Sheila has also said, it looks very hard, for young people, especially when you look at the future. We can't even plan, for your future in a way. Before they always say, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? But right now, in the next 5 years, the flood might have washed away my home. Those are the issues I think about sometimes as a young person. So it doesn't, seem very, positive. But then there was this person that also spoke in the movie and said, because of these issues, they've dedicated their life, their work to working in this space. And I would say, that's reflective of my, my actions right now. I don't think I can do any other thing that is not climate aware or is not, talking about the impact of climate change, us as human beings, and how we are going to cope with it, because it is not going away. It is not going to go away. We need to be very realistic about that as young people. If old people are going to, dip their head in the sand and be like, they are not going to think about it. I feel like for younger people who have a longer time to stay on this earth, we need to accept that it is not going away, and we need to find ways, to build resilience. And like Nkosi said, also talk about what we need, try to drive policy changes for ourselves. And I also want to say, for young people, it is not just rebringing or talking about policies that worked in the old times. I think now it's time for us to reimagine our future. Think about things that even, when you let your parents know, they'll be like, where is this coming from? They'll be so shocked. And, we should just try to reimagine, a future, like somebody said, without the American dream, or I would say the usual African dream, just reimagine how we can live in harmony, how we can tap into our ancestral wisdom, how we can tap into our traditional wisdom, from old people around us, how they lived, sustainable lifestyles, sustainable living tips. We know not all of our traditions are good, or there are always the bad parts of traditions, but the good parts, that connected us to nature, that connected us to our the earth. I think those are the things we should reimagine when we think about policy and how to build a new life for ourselves and facing this climate crisis. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And there was something that Sheila also said. She made mention of the fact that people experience climate change on the spectrum, right? And so the way I feel climate, the way I experience and the emotions I get from climate change might be different from what yours is, but at the end of the day, they are all still, there are still emotions, and of course these things have their own peculiar way of dealing with them. But just also talking about how your feelings are different from the next person's feeling, but not in any way trying to invalidate yours or theirs, is also a very good way to manage these emotions too. And like Sheila said, community is definitely very important. So let me just ask you, Aramide, just curious to know some of the feelings that you feel because of climate change, and your changing environment. You know, how do you manage these feelings?
Like I said, like I said earlier, acceptance first of all. You know, when I start feeling things like this, and I'm like, oh my God, what if? Why did this happen? Why are they cutting down trees? Why did they not think of sustainable ways to incorporate packing, and things like that? But I'm like, okay, we are at this stage already, so I just need to accept that, and I need to be in the present, and I think that's the most important thing. And getting data, knowing the facts, knowing exactly what is happening and how I can be impacted, and also taking action. I realize taking action helps a lot, and my work every day is basically about taking action, especially in that intersection between climate change and mental health, which is something I am passionate about, because I also experience this form of eco-anxiety and environmental. You might have picked that from my talk. Experiencing strong environmental related emotions. So taking action is also a way for me, for me to move forward, for me to draw up every day, seeing changes, seeing people, also young people like me, also talking about how they begin to realize that this is happening, especially in Nigeria. Yeah, when I first started, like 18, when I first started understanding climate change and its interrelation with our health and life, I was about 18, and when I used to speak to people about that, they'd be like, what are you even talking about? And things like that. But now I'm beginning to see more people, understand why this is happening. And this, even from people I've influenced personally. So that brings great joy to me too. Being able to talk to my friends. They might not be as active as I am, but they know, why this is happening, and they are taking, little personal steps to change. So all these things just give me hope, for the future, that change can happen. Yeah, so that's how I cope. And then I allow the sadness sit. When I'm sad, I just let it, because that's reality. It is real. I just, embrace it and let it sit. Yeah.
Just to also ask Sheila as well, because he just wanted to just know, how do you think young adults can become climate advocates?
Well,
okay, then maybe I should rephrase. So how do you think young adults can become climate advocates while also incorporating and taking care of their mental health at the same time? Because this, I think you can even talk more, on the perspective of an African, in the sense that it's not really something that's really talked about and taken care of many times. So as a climate advocate, as a young climate advocate, how do you incorporate that care into your journey as a climate advocate?
Well, I think the typical advice most people answer this question like, find what you like, do what makes you happy, what you love, and all of that. But at the end of the day, it depends on the individual. Like, what kind of advocate do you want to be? Like, do you want to be, the out there person who's like really engaged in policy? Do you want to start a business, a profit-making business, a non-profit organization, and that way you're gonna be like, driving change from away, from outside the spotlight? Or do you want to be the protester and all of that? So it's, answering that one is a little bit difficult, because it's more like, do these people we're talking about, do they even want to be climate advocates, or do they just want to be mentally stable?
And Nkosi, do you have any response to that?
Yeah, I think climate change is quite one of the pressing issues of our generation. There's no ignoring it, because even if you ignore it, you still feel the brunt, you still feel the impacts. But I think the first step towards being an effective advocate of climate change starts with you educating yourself. Climate change is quite a broad subject, and it's quite technical in some aspects. So I think the first step is educating yourself. Learning about climate change. Its impact and potential solutions. And also making sure that you stay informed about current climate issues and developments through reliable sources. And also another way young people can become climate change advocates is through raising awareness. Most of us young people, we are tech savvy. We are always on social media. So I think we can use the power of social media to raise awareness, to share information or to even organize events. I think TEAP is doing very well in that by organizing webinars. And also, I think young people can also, join youth-led organization that are in the climate space. There are quite a lot of those. And excuse me, I'm sure that they can join those. And also, there is Yungo. Yungo is an open membership constituency of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. There is a lot of information that is shared there. There are also opportunities. So I think I would encourage young people to join Yungo and become a member of Yungo. So yeah, there's quite a lot that we can do as young people, to advocate for for climate change, to advocate against climate change, to raise awareness, to drive policy changes. And I think with the conclusion of the Global Stocktake, I'm sure that the next round of national determined contributions will be up and running, maybe as early as from next year. It will be a pleasure to see young people being part of such initiatives, making sure that the NDCs in their respective countries reflect the ambitions of young people, reflect the opinions and the vision and the views of young people, because we are the ones, like Ayomide said, we are the ones who have the potential to live longer. So I think we should be in those rooms, making sure that the decisions that are made, the policy frameworks that are built reflect that. And then coming into incorporating climate change, mental health. I think mental health is one of those issues that is still, a little bit a problem in Africa. It's not really taken that serious, especially maybe where I am. But from my research, I've realized that most African countries don't have, comprehensive and holistic mental health policies. It's not that issue. That it's not an issue that is taken that much serious. But as young people who are living through depression, who are living through eco-anxiety, we are the ones who should drive those policy changes, ensuring that policies reflect that. So yeah, I think there's quite a lot that young people can do. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to also add that while doing so, it's definitely important to keep your mental health in check while trying to save the world, in quotes. Because it's very good, and you see a lot of positive things happening, but it's also very possible that you can be doing these things at the detriment of your own mental health, because trying to do so many things at once might be just crazy. But just practicing self-care and incorporating or rather having a sense of community in your work is also very, very good for that. So my next question, I think I'll ask you, Ayomide, my next question, if that's fine. My next question is going to be about how do you think we can have a sense of solidarity in this climate and mental health?
Yeah, so I will just say, starting from joining like-minded people, having a community, like Charlotte said earlier, of like-minded people, just starts that bond. And then that is where it goes from, because like I said, my experience when before I joined Saucy Vibes, joining this environmental community that I'm in right now, I was very lost, and I didn't have people understand me, or validate my feelings regarding climate change and climate crisis and its impact on me. So having a community builds solidarity. I will also say, like in Nigeria right now, there are tribal wars and issues, even all over the world, racism and things like that. That is not the problem, to be honest. The other person is not. I see it as we are all one, and we are all on this earth, and we are all going to suffer the impact of this, the climate crisis, whether you are white or black, wherever you are. Although some people would feel it more, some countries are more vulnerable, some regions of the world are more vulnerable, but everybody, like Nigerians will say, everybody go collect. We will all, face the impact of this thing. So we should not see it as a us against them problem, but it's an everybody thing, and we need to work, with everybody. We need to be open. We need to respect other people's opinion. We need to, give space. Like you said, climate change experiences on a spectrum. But that doesn't mean yours is worse or yours is better than anybody else. So you just have to respect everybody's feelings. Try to be I don't want to use the word neutral, but try to be as welcoming as possible, and seeing it as everybody is going to be in this together. So I think that's what builds solidarity for me, connecting with other people within Africa and outside Africa who have shared experience of environmental related emotions, even if we did not experience the same kind of impact or crisis, but the emotions are valid. However, you feel them, and connecting with those people, taking actions with them, is one way to build solidarity. I also want to mention, somebody dropped something in the chat, Camila. She dropped off now, but I'm just going to read that out. So she says, hello, everyone. Unfortunately, I have to go. Thank you so much for setting this up. It is a precious experience not to only view the film, but listen to the conversations around this, including a perspective from different areas of the world. She's based in Italy, apparently. So she says one of the things that struck her about this conversation is the complexity of keeping in mind the different intersectionalities between climate activism, mental health, financial insecurity, and youth employment. So difficult emotions do come up, but taking part in events like this give us the hope that there is a global community working in this together. Thanks again. Yeah, so that basically some of what I feel, having a global community with like-minded young people who are working to make change is a way to build solidarity.
Sheila, do you have any response to that question? Do I need to say it again?
Yeah, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question was, how do you think we can promote a sense of global solidarity and community among young people facing similar feelings of equal anxiety?
I think the first thing that I think of is acceptance. And this may sound cocky, but there's so much disintegration between who's going through the worst and who's going through less. I don't think there's such a thing as the worst and the most. We all are going through so much as a global community, and accepting that we are actually both ends of the same stick, and actually work on our differences. And I mean, we don't really have to like each other. We just have to understand that the things we are both working towards are actually, getting to the same thing, like a common goal, that we want a stable society where, young people, marginalized people have, better, serving mental health system, and not just mental health systems, but societal or socioeconomic systems that are actually equal, going to like, equal or equitable, water distribution services and systems and management. So it's just like, how do we accept our differences? And I think that's also goes to like, a sense of like understanding the interconnectedness or intersectionalities of things, that we also need to sort of like accept who we are as a human species and know our place.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. I think to also add to that, something that TEAP does, is very that I think is very good to know, is that we have this party we call SOSTI party, where we come together to just have fun and really talk about how we feel about climate change. Something very simple, but it goes a really long way when you hear people and you have a sense of community around how people just talk about their experience and how they're dealing with whatever they're dealing with. So having to organize events and just having a community of people is also very good in promoting solidarity in climate mental health. So I just want to ask us, do you have any questions, or do any one of us in the chats or guests, any questions? Okay, it seems you don't have any questions.
Or any comments. It doesn't necessarily have to be a question. If you'd like to also share your experience, or how you feel about the film, we are open to that. Anything. This is a safe space for young people to share their perspective and talk about their mental health. So you can say anything.
Yeah, and while we're on this, there's something that just came to my heart, and I think is also very important to just show. I think it's in trying to have solidarity in climate mental health globally. I think it's also very key that we share our own different stories in the best way that we can do that, because sharing your stories differently might just be able to resonate with someone who also sees your story, your stories in whatever form of art, singing, whatever it might be, and that resonance that resonance plays a key in building solidarity, might I just say. Okay, any contributions, guys, from the chat? Or you can just raise your hands if you have any contributions to just share. Well, Jennifer has a contribution. She says it's spot on, and she thanks everyone for being here. Okay, I really can take it away then.
Okay. All right. Thank you all for being here. We would have loved. Okay, yeah, we have something from Trina. Okay, she says, thank you all. I have decided, because of our conversation, to start a monthly online group for Florida youths to have a safe space to talk about their feelings related to climate and space to imagine a new future together. Thank you for sharing your wisdom here. Oh, thank you so much, Trina, for your comments. This is really heartwarming, and this is really what we are all about, starting these conversations, having other people joining these conversations, sharing it far and wide in different communities. This is how we are going to make change. Action starts from conversations and solidarity, when you have that space with people who think the way you do. So thank you so much. Jennifer says, thank you, super validating of our work. Yeah, thank you. We are so happy you dropped this comment. Would have liked for other comments and more interactiveness, but we understand if you don't want to share, there is no pressure. You can always do that some other time. You can reach out to us at teap@sostivibes.org. That's our email. If you have any comments, any idea, any suggestions, you can also follow us on all social media platforms at TEAP Africa. Yeah, and just follow us on social media, drop your comments, talk about the webinar, even if it's for you to go to just talk about it with your family members or your friends, your close friends. We really appreciate, the word getting out, more people knowing about this impact and our issues. I also want to thank our speakers, Charlotte and Nkosi. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom and your work. You can also check them out, on social media, Charlotte Masiti and Nkosi Subada. I'm sure they'll respond to you. I want to thank you all for being here this afternoon. It's time to drop off. We are 2 minutes past time. So thank you all. Bye. Hope to connect to you soon. Bye, everyone.